What if the world was not guided by justice, reason, or progress, but by invisible codes written into the marrow of our species? Laws so dangerous that schools dare not teach them, and leaders spend their lives disguising them. You break them, you are devoured. You master them, and suddenly the world becomes pliable beneath your hands. Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature and 48 Laws of Power books opened a doorway into these truths. But here we strip away the civility, the moral cushions, and the polite euphemisms. What remains is not a guide for harmony, but a ledger of weapons. These are not simply patterns of behavior to observe. They are rules to exploit and traps to avoid. In this video, you will step into the forbidden classroom. You will see the laws of irrationality, narcissism, envy, aggression, and short-sightedness, not as curiosities of psychology, but as sharpened blades. You will learn how they are wielded in politics, in business, in intimacy itself. You will see how every mask can slip, how every weakness can be turned, how every pattern repeats through generations. Ignore them, and you will forever be a pawn in someone else's game. Learn them, and you may walk the line between prey and predator with eyes finally open. The mind is a labyrinth. Let's walk its shadows together. You believe yourself reasonable. You weigh evidence. You argue with logic. You trust that rational thought anchors your decisions. But beneath that thin surface lies a storm, a tide of fear, hunger, desire, resentment. And it is this tide, not reason, that carries you from one choice to the next. Reason does not lead. It follows. Emotion surges first, and then reason arrives with elegant excuses, constructing an architecture of logic after the foundation has already been laid in passion. This is the first dangerous law. Humans are not rational creatures, but rationalizing ones. History is thick with examples. In the Weimar Republic, a population battered by humiliation and inflation did not turn first to economic spreadsheets or sober debate. They turned to anger, to wounded pride. They applauded voices that confirmed their rage, even when those voices whispered ruin. The story was not about balance sheets. It was about humiliation, and humiliation demanded vengeance. By the time reason entered the scene, it was already chained and led along, forced to justify what the heart had already chosen. You may think yourself immune, but recall your last argument, the moment when words failed you. Did your anger burn out of principle, or because your pride was wounded? Recall your last purchase, when you justified the indulgence with talk of quality or necessity. Was that reason, or was it desire in a clever disguise? The sinister application of this law is both simple and terrifying. If you wish to control someone, do not argue with their mind. Agitate their feelings first. Stir envy or fear or longing. Then present the illusion of logic, and they will cling to it, believing they arrived at the conclusion themselves. This is the magician's trick in politics, in advertising, in intimacy itself. The speech that makes you angry before it makes you think. The campaign ad that flashes images of danger, then speaks of security. The lover who provokes jealousy, then offers comfort. In each case, the hook is emotional, and the justification arrives after. To resist this law is no easier than to resist breathing. But resistance begins with recognition. The next time you feel yourself swept in anger or seduced by a promise, pause and ask, what emotion preceded this logic? The answer will reveal the hidden hand at your throat. But here is the darker truth. Those who master this law rarely use it gently. To know that others are irrational is to possess a lever that can move crowds, break loyalties, and rewrite destinies. To trigger the storm in others while remaining calm yourself. This is the path of the manipulator, the demagogue, the seducer. And so the warning cuts both ways. If you do not see this law in action, you are already inside its grip. If you cannot trace the emotional hook beneath someone's logic, then you are already dancing to their tune. Have you ever caught yourself, or someone else, being steered by emotion disguised as reason? Tell your story in the comments. The law of irrationality does not accuse humanity of weakness. It simply names what has always been true. Beneath every argument lies a wound, beneath every reason a pulse. And those who know how to press upon that pulse need never raise their voice. They will move others as effortlessly as puppets strung by invisible wire. If you're liking this video, please like and subscribe now. It helps the channel to grow. Thank you for watching. Look closely, and you will see it. Every human being carries a mirror, though they rarely admit it. They gaze into the world as if it were glass, searching not for truth, but for reflections of themselves. The stranger across the table, the friend on the phone, the partner in the dark, each becomes a surface where the self hopes to reappear, larger, brighter, adored. This is the law of narcissism. Beneath every interaction lies the hunger to feel central. Even acts of generosity, even sacrifices made in the name of love, often contain a hidden thread that leads back to the self. You give, but you also want to be seen giving. You serve, but you also long to be remembered as the servant. History tells this story again and again. Napoleon, standing on battlefields littered with bodies, did not only crave victory, he craved to be eternal, to live as the star in France's imagination. Politicians today do not simply argue policy. They stage themselves as saviors in the eyes of the public. Even saints, etched into stained glass, live not in the shadows, but in the glow of admiration. The sinister application of this law is disarmingly simple. To gain someone's trust, hand them a mirror. Reflect their worth back at them. Let them hear in your words the music of their own greatness. Do this, and they will open the gates willingly, mistaking flattery for truth, mistaking reflection for intimacy. Do you think flattery is ever genuine, or is it always a tool of manipulation? Drop your perspective in the comments. Let's see where you draw the line. This is how demagogues rise. They do not argue with citizens. They mirror them. They speak in tones that echo back the audience's fears and desires until the crowd feels they are hearing themselves. The leader becomes less a person and more a projection, a polished surface that reflects the multitude. On a smaller scale, this tactic plays out in the most intimate of places. A seducer who listens intently, repeats your words back with reverence, makes you feel singular in the universe. You mistake this for love, when in truth it is technique. Once you are addicted to your own reflection in their eyes, they need only guide the mirror where they wish you to go. But beware, the mirror is double-edged. Just as it can win loyalty, it can also shatter rivals. To expose a narcissist is to humiliate them. To remind someone that the world does not revolve around them is to trigger fury, resentment, even violence. Thus, the law teaches, stroke the ego of allies, but never wound the ego of enemies unless you are prepared for their vengeance. To defend yourself against this law, you must first notice the mirror in your own hands. When praise floods you, when someone makes you feel exquisitely understood, pause and ask, is this intimacy? Or is it a reflection being held up for my consumption? If it is a mirror, then you are being played. Yet here lies the paradox. You cannot fully escape this law. To hunger for recognition is human. But the moment you recognize the hunger, you weaken its hold. You stop being blindly led by your own need for affirmation, and you begin to see how others will use it against you. The law of narcissism does not claim that love, loyalty, or admiration are illusions. It only reveals their fuel, the endless, fragile flame of self-regard. And those who know how to tend that flame, with flattery, with attention, with reflected light, will always hold the power to ignite devotion or to burn it to ashes. Life is a stage, and you have been acting longer than you realize. From childhood, you learned which expressions earned praise, which words softened punishment, which performances brought you safety. Over time, the mask clung to your skin so tightly, you began to mistake it for your face. This is the law of role-playing. No one shows the world their naked self. To survive, we learn to play roles. To gain love, we learn to perform. To win power, we learn to disguise. The masks vary: the dutiful child, the charming colleague, the confident leader, but the law remains the same. Authenticity is dangerous, and so we hide behind theater. But here is the dangerous truth. Every mask slips. The tension of holding an image is too great, the cracks too fragile. In a moment of exhaustion, anger, or intoxication, the hidden face appears. And in that instant, more is revealed than in years of polished performance. Have you ever witnessed someone's mask fall away, revealing who they really are? Share your story in the comments. Those moments change how we see people forever. The sinister application of this law is clear. Watch for the slip. The carefully constructed persona of your rival, your ally, your lover. All it takes is one fracture to expose the true desire, the hidden fear, the unguarded wound. If you are attentive in these moments, you hold a lever more powerful than persuasion: leverage. History offers brutal illustrations. At the court of Louis XIV, courtiers lived and died by performance. A misplaced word, a glance that betrayed envy, a hesitation in etiquette. Each was a mask slipping, each a dagger placed in an enemy's hand. In modern politics too, careers collapse not from policy but from a microphone left on, a camera capturing an unscripted grimace. The mask falters, and the truth devours the actor. You know this in your own life. The colleague who plays humble until their bitterness erupts. The friend who plays loyal until a careless remark exposes jealousy. The lover whose devotion shatters in one sharp look of contempt. We trust the role until the mask slips, and then we cannot unsee the face behind it. To defend yourself against this law, you must first admit your own role-playing. The mask you wear is not shameful, it is survival. But the danger is forgetting you are wearing it. If you mistake your role for your identity, then your slip will destroy you. Self-awareness is armor. If you know the part you play, then you control the stage rather than stumbling off it. And yet, this law is also an invitation. Because if everyone wears a mask, then intimacy, true intimacy, is nothing less than the moment when the mask is set aside. Few people reach it. Fewer still can bear it. To see someone without their disguise is to see their soul naked, trembling, real. That is why it is so rare and so dangerous. The law of role-playing does not condemn performance. It only reveals that human life is theater, and we are all actors. Those who master this theater bend perception to their will. Those who ignore it are trapped in roles they did not choose, puppets of masks they cannot remove. And those who learn to read the slips, the moments of truth when the mask cracks, hold in their hands a power far sharper than applause. Envy is the quiet poison of human affairs. It does not roar, it whispers. It hides behind compliments, behind applause, behind silence itself. But beneath the mask of admiration, it festers, resenting anyone who dares to climb higher, shine brighter, or stand apart. This is the law of envy. No one admits to it, yet everyone feels it. And it corrodes not only friendships and alliances, but nations and empires. History is full of its wreckage. Julius Caesar, adored by Rome, was undone not by foreign enemies, but by men whose smiles masked envy. The daggers of Brutus and Cassius were sharpened not by principle but by resentment. Centuries later, entire industries have collapsed not through lack of resources, but through envy within. Rivals sabotaging one another, too blinded by comparison to see the larger game. And envy has a companion, short-sightedness. Human beings crave the immediate, the thrill of victory today, the comfort of gratification now. Few can think in decades, fewer still in centuries. And so we lunge for the bait in front of us, blind to the long game unfolding around us. The sinister application of these twin laws is devastating. If you wish to weaken a rival, you need not attack them directly. You need only feed their envy. Subtly draw attention to what they lack, amplify their resentment, and watch as they consume themselves. And if you wish to outmaneuver an opponent, offer them a glittering short-term prize, a quick win, an easy conquest. While they celebrate their immediate gain, you prepare the deeper victory. This is how empires crumble and corporations fall. A leader distracted by the envy of peers forgets the common enemy outside the gates. A company chasing quarterly profits sacrifices its future on the altar of immediate applause. Even personal relationships fracture when envy gnaws beneath the surface and short-sighted indulgence burns the foundation. You have felt this yourself. The sting of another's success, the hunger to prove yourself quickly, the inability to endure the long, slow path. These are not flaws unique to you. They are laws of the species. But to deny them is to be ruled by them. To defend against envy, you must first acknowledge it within. When you feel that bitter spark at another's triumph, do not let it fester. Transform it into discipline, into inspiration, or at least into silence. And to defend against short-sightedness, you must train your mind to think beyond the moment, to see not the glittering bait, but the hidden hook, not the victory today, but the consequences tomorrow. But here is the darker truth. Most will never rise above these laws. They will sabotage allies, blind themselves with resentment, and fall for easy bait again and again. And if you are ruthless enough, you can guide them into these traps with little more than a whisper. The law of envy and the law of short-sightedness do not reveal human weakness alone. They reveal the human pattern, to look upward with resentment and to look forward with blindness. Those who know how to stir the one and exploit the other will always rule the stage, while the envious and the short-sighted destroy themselves in the wings. Beneath every smile lies a clenched fist. Civilization teaches us to bow, to shake hands, to smile for the camera. But aggression never disappears. It only burrows deeper, simmering under the surface until the right spark brings it roaring back to life. Have you ever discovered hidden aggression behind someone's politeness? And how did it change your trust in them? Share your experience in the comments. This is the law of aggression. Hostility is never absent, only disguised. The colleague who praises you in meetings seethes at home. The friend who congratulates you grits their teeth in private. Nations, too, sign treaties with smiles while stockpiling weapons just beyond the border. History reveals this constant undercurrent. The Cuban Missile Crisis was not born in a vacuum, but from decades of aggression hidden behind diplomacy. The facade of cooperation shattered in an instant, and the world teetered on the brink of annihilation. The lesson? Peace is often just a pause, a mask worn by hostility until the timing feels right. The sinister application of this law is brutal but effective. If you want to know someone's true nature, provoke them. A calm word spoken in just the right place, a subtle humiliation, a denied expectation, and the mask of civility burns away, revealing the predator beneath. Once aggression surfaces, you know where to strike and you know how to control. Yet aggression is not the only blindness. Entire generations live as if they were the first to walk the earth. They think themselves unique, enlightened, untethered from the past. This is the law of generational myopia. Every age repeats the same errors, imagining itself new while marching through the same old cycles of hubris, revolt, and collapse. The roaring youth of the 1960s believed they had reinvented freedom, yet their rebellions echoed those of centuries past. Today's digital crusaders believe outrage is a fresh invention, though mobs have always burned with righteous fury. Each generation looks forward with arrogance and back with disdain, never realizing that history is a mirror, not a ladder. The sinister application of this law is cold. If you can anticipate the cycle, you can predict behavior. Watch the old mistake returning a new dress, and you can profit from it. You know when markets will bubble and burst. You know when politics will swing back and forth. You know that the cries of unprecedented are only evidence of forgetfulness. To defend yourself against these laws, you must cultivate both patience and memory. When aggression rises against you, do not react in kind. For reaction is control surrendered. Remain calm, and the aggressor exposes themselves more fully with every outburst. And when your generation claims novelty, look instead to history. Ask, who has walked this path before, and how did it end? But here is the bleak truth: most will fail. Aggression will erupt, and wars will follow. Generations will repeat, and mistakes will echo. And those who understand the laws will always stand apart, untouchable, not because they are free of aggression or blindness, but because they know how to navigate both. The law of aggression reminds you that peace is fragile theater. The law of generational myopia reminds you that novelty is a lie. Together they reveal a world endlessly cycling between hostility and amnesia, and only those who see through both illusions can survive the storm. There is one final law, and it binds all the others. Once you see the game, you cannot unsee it. This is the law of exposure. You now know that humans are not guided by reason but by emotion. You know that every soul craves its reflection, that every mask will one day slip, that envy corrodes silently, that aggression crouches beneath civility, and that generations endlessly forget the lessons of those before them. These are not opinions. They are structures, as real as gravity, as merciless as time. And the moment they are revealed, the illusions that once protected you dissolve. You cannot walk into a negotiation and forget the envy at the table. You cannot listen to a speech without hearing which pulse it seeks to trigger. You cannot look at a lover's smile without wondering which mask they are wearing, or which mask you are. The dangerous gift of exposure is that awareness becomes a weapon. With it, you can defend yourself. With it, you can manipulate others. And with it, you can never return to innocence. The world is divided not between the good and the evil, but between those who see and those who are seen through. To ignore these laws is to remain prey. To master them is to carry a burden, the burden of clarity, the burden of choice. The law of exposure leaves you with a question. Now that you have seen, what will you do? Will you close your eyes and pretend, living comfortably in the illusion? Or will you keep them open, accepting the cost of sight, and step into a world where every gesture is a signal, every silence a strategy, every law a blade? The choice is yours. But remember, you cannot unsee. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. Until next time, may you carry the burden of sight with courage, and the silence of understanding with strength. The laws of human nature will not vanish, but when you recognize their shadows, you are no longer their captive. You become their interpreter, their navigator, their master.